So our guest today is Alexandra, and I'm gonna let her introduce herself. Go ahead and tell us where you're from and kind of what you do. What's your experiences with the dogs?
Right, so hello everyone. Thanks for. I am from Germany originally. So when I was a teenager, 12 years old, my dad brought home a working dog puppy for me. And yeah, we went to the club. We went to the German Shepherd and Rottweiler clubs in the villages. And we did the usual thing that back then you did in these dog training clubs. There wasn't dog facilities or board and trains at all. There also was no internet back then. There was just the
Right.
clubs, and you'd take dogs there. Pet dogs could go there for obedience training, and sport working dogs would go there to do Schutzhund training, like IPG, IPO is it called today. It's a combo of tracking, obedience, and protection work. And yeah, my dog was my first candidate to learn with. The decoy that trained me up as a decoy as well. That was lots of fun. And I worked mainly with Rottweilers. My own dog was a giant Schnauzer, working like German Shepherd mix. And German Shepherds were the breed that was most prevalent, aside from the Rottweiler, the occasional Hoverwart, Doberman, and Boxer. But yeah, mainly German Shepherds. And yeah, people in the club saw that I was getting results with my own dog and said, "Hey, you want to make some extra pocket money by training up our dogs for the breeding regulations back then demanded that you had Schutzhund 1, the first level of IPG before you could get into breeding. You had to have a conformation title of some kind. You had to have a endurance test, and you had to have like an equivalent of a canine good citizenship test where the dog is showing as socialized in public. So I would take dogs in, house them in my kennel, one of our kennels, and yeah, and put them through the competitions and take other people's dogs, get into dog walking as a second little job. And we German kids back then didn't spend much time at school. So I had time to do all that
Right.
and went to shelters to do dog walking and looking after, you know, also the aggressive dogs that no one was wanting to walk or had already got a bite history, and I was just too naive and dumb back then to to stay away from them. But that was how I got into the game. Then I went into dog sitting for private clients as well as breeders in various countries, and went into occasionally helping friends out with their dogs once I moved to Switzerland. Fostered a few dogs, a greyhound, a few scent hounds, a terrier mix, and it just got into various hands-on experiences with many dogs of different breeds, sizes, behavioral issues, ages, and situations. And that was very interesting, and I'm surprised to this day that I never got seriously bit. And it was totally credit to the dogs that were realizing that I wasn't trying to harm them or hurt them or even dominate or challenge them. I was very diplomatic. I just figured, look, you want to jump up and growl at me in the face, okay, there's very little I can do about that because the dogs often would be about my own weight.
Right.
And so, what to do with a big Rottweiler, right? You just avert your gaze, talk, baby talk a little bit, and it's okay, baby, and think what's gonna happen to me now. It's not sure. Um,
Gotcha.
and
Gotcha.
you've been there, I'm sure, where you just sometimes you're too late. You can't hold the leash away. You can't hold the dog away on the leash off of you anymore. It's already there in your face, and all you can do is freeze. And yeah,
There's definitely some times that you don't want to do it any more than necessary, but there's definitely some times you're going to have to back down if you're working with serious dogs.
yeah,
Eventually, they're going to catch you with your pants down.
yeah, and it always helped me out. Like they never doubled down. They were like sane in the head in the way that they didn't follow through, as in grabbing, holding on, and starting to rip in terrier form or anything. They also weren't terriers. There was just one Amstaff, and she was extremely human friendly, luckily. But the others were mainly Rottweilers, big German Shepherds, other Shepherd breeds like French Shepherd breeds. And yeah, they would just want to dominate you in the moment you said, it's okay, I'm fine, I'm not gonna push the boat out. They would back down. It wouldn't fix the issue, obviously. And regrettably, these dogs got home with people I didn't even know, and I've been one walking these dogs every day. And often some came back and had bitten again. I mean, the shelter staff back in the day, no trained staff, nothing, didn't know anything. Letting me as a teenager underage work with serious aggression cases, it's like ridiculous looking at it now. But that's how I got into the game and got my experience, or the biggest batch of experience, I would say. Then I went to Portugal after traveling around a lot with my husband and having a whole different career as an executive assistant. So we went into online work, got our own dog and dogs, and I got my German Shepherd, working line German Shepherd, around 10 years ago. And I worked her at a dog school. She became my demo dog, and she did great. But the dog school owner was very old school, also, like training French ring with Malinois, prepping them for competition, and helping pet dogs. Now, he was a certified pet dog trainer, but here in Portugal, that just means you went to a weekend seminar and got a little plaque that says you're now certified. And he had no trouble quelching human aggression in a client's pet dog with just smacking the leather leash over that dog's face and making it scream so the whole village could hear it. So not exactly modern methods, but he had at least learned how to do food luring, and that was new to me in practical application. So that's how I learned to use food work to achieve positions without leash pressure or totally without leash. Puppy training was a big thing at the school, so I learned the hands-on modern approach there, despite him being a very old school trainer. So that was great. When I moved away from the area, there was no dog school nearby, but I met Will Atherton, the dog trainer, via his YouTube videos back then, and we got talking, and I got hired. So before I knew it, I was like in a dog training firm, getting into virtually consulting people, first in a Facebook group we had for the members, then in customer service, and then went on to Garrett Wing of DIY Canine American Standard Dog Training, and built out his membership section. And that was my shift, like from only doing hands-on to really consulting client in sessions, in consultations that were mainly dog breed consultations, as in like the formal 90-minute calls, but also then consultations in writing, like with our members and our clients, with, okay, I got a behavioral problem or training problem, here it is, what do I do? So it was my job to give the advice and build a team of people who would be trained in the same teachings that Garrett has, just watching his courses, being tutored by him. And yeah, our job was it to be little Garrett clones in a way, to take his method, take the input from the dog owner, and then spit out a solution. Now, if my guys couldn't gain any progress much in a case, they would come to me. If I couldn't achieve what the client wanted, I would bring it to Garrett. If that even didn't help, the client would speak to Garrett on video call. We had weekly member lives on and people that were customers or members could just chime in on camera and talk to Garrett live about the issue, and even show him video footage and stuff, and we would discuss it as a group. And I mean, Garrett has a lot of good testimonials, so the method is working. And Kevin, when I had the talk with him, was asking, well, obviously the method was working, then all the testimonials, so why did you not just stick to it, right? So why did I run off? into the forestry world of all places, right? And for me, what did it was my dog Maya. She's a livestock guardian, and you talked with Pete Reford about livestock guardians like a short time ago on your channel. So people should really watch
Hmm.
that great conversation. And it explains a lot. And like you say yourself, these are not normal dogs. Something different. A very
Right, right.
hardcore
They are. They really
guardian.
are.
Oh, and my boss back at the dog school in Portugal had warned me. We had an Estrela, same breed Maya is, come into class, and when he saw that dog first, he was a big male, and they can get uh, about the same size and weights as an American bred Cane Corso, which is a lot of dog,
Right.
right? That dog was
Yes, it
coming,
is.
was barking at everything, and I said to my boss, "Hey, can't we just?" And I just rattled down some aversive ideas of stopping the barking. Now I would think, no, it's just been stupid. And he was like, no, no, we can't do that. Not with this breed. They have a long memory. They hold grudges for many years, and I can attest to that now. And we cannot work them with aversive methods. They will get so aggressive, they'll bite everyone, not just me or you, but also the owner. And our vet then corroborated that interestingly. So, okay, that was a new learning for me. So with Maya, I tried the approaches of Will Atherton's, and it just didn't work. And Will said himself, look, my approach works for like 90%, maybe 95% of all dogs, but at each end of the spectrum. So you have like the more assertive dogs like Maya, or the more like maybe neurotic dogs like the little uh, Aussie Shepherds that just, you could almost say, have a screw loose because of genetic reasons, the poor dogs, right? They're like so anxious. Yeah, and for them too, it doesn't always work. What Will was back then teaching. So okay, I went to Garrett, and Garrett helped me to get Maya e-collar trained for recall, because we were stuck with COVID in a place that didn't have a solid boundary around it. And Maya flipped her switch at 6 months old into her guardian mode, and went from just standing on the patio, as was perfect, and barking, to charging off and confronting whatever she saw, and was like, holy F,
You started a little
that's
early.
not good. Yes, early. Yeah. And I had to e-collar train her I felt back then, to get the exercise in and to get her to listen to me, because that she totally didn't. She was in her own worlds. Like, human, it's my job here. Just get out of the way. I'm taking care of it. And Garrett completely understood, because he had Cane Corsos, right? So his old Corso was pretty much the same mindset. Just get out of the way, humans and dogs. I take care of business, and just go eat that person. So we're safe. We're good.
Yep.
And as Pete Reford told you and the audience, this is an instinct that's so effing strong that you almost can't override it. You just, the best case scenarios, you get mowed down if you try to get in the way. So to use the e-collar to get her to stop and listen and reconsider and recall, that took me about 3 months. It was a hard process, and Garrett gave me pointers how to do that, and it worked. It worked well, but it stressed me out. It stressed the dog out. It didn't make things better with her reactivity, which was insane compared to a normal non-livestock guardian. The kind of incessant barking, like what Pete was saying, like his method to just wait it out. With my dog, he could have waited that out for days. With another dog anywhere near inside, she was so frantic. And we
Barking
tried.
is
I
a
had,
self-reinforcing behavior, so the more they bark, the more it's being reinforced.
oh yeah,
Could you explain for us maybe how you were using the e-collar with your dog for the recall?
yes. So as I knew that I only wanted it for recall, nothing else, that's how I conditioned it. I was working with the vibrate function first, and the tone function to, like, start. It's long ago now, but I think I started with the tone function even to condition beep beep. Yes, and ask her to come to me and give a treat. So she's very food driven, and that worked to my advantage. Then I escalated to when she invariably then wouldn't come because the trigger was somewhere. I had the long line on her. I would use the vibrate, which, as you know, is often very aversive to dogs when they're not used to it, right? So she would freak out a bit and then realize, oh, wait a minute, it's just another of these recall cues, and I just better come because it's not really pleasant. So then I worked up to the aversive levels because obviously she got used to the vibrate and it wasn't enough sometimes to break the fixation on a perceived threat to recall. And I needed her to be reliable because we had sometimes people on horseback riding close by, and absolutely there is not a lot of you know uh, tolerance for mistakes in that scenario. So I worked on aversive levels, and I mean Garrett explains that so perfectly in his teaching, like how you work up the levels. Back then, I only knew a fraction of that. I just applied what I had learned at the dog school and at the dog training field back when I grew up with the Teletuck, the very old e-collars. Um,
Right.
so it was very brutish, but I succeeded in teaching her that okay, okay, so scenario a bird flies over, a goose flies over. It's enough to set her off to go after, right? So she would take off in that instance after the goose. I would recall her, use the name and the recall cue. She would ignore it. And I would hit the e-collar on, say, a medium level. She would ignore it. I would crank it up and hit her on the aversive level. And she would flinch, and with a few reps, took me a good few reps to get her to understand this, that the aversive hit just means recall to me, as I've already told you. I said my word is aqui, in Portuguese here. I said aqui, so you just come. And when you come, like the first instant, she turns in my direction. Yes, 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 that's what I want. And then teaching her the safe space from the pressure is near me. That's where she wants to be. There's the food, there's the affection, and nothing, she doesn't get hit on anything when she's in that circle, right? So that's how I managed to get her to even be recalling in a field full of sheep that someone just had been dumb enough to move into, not seeing that I was running my dogs in there. And I had like rented the field. So it was like, oh my God, the
So,
stressful
so you said
situation.
it took you a few months to do this, and it was very stressful on you and the dog, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, did you ever learn a different way of using the e-collar after that?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I realized I had totally just butchered the process when Garrett exposed me to his e-collar program, which he then created when I joined him. Um, it's called Unleashed six, no, 5 steps to e-collar mastery, I think it's called on his website. And yeah, I watched the program several times. I even literally wrote a book about that program. So I got very deep into it, and it's it's very good. I used it with Mikey also for recall with my young beagle, which also was successful. But then I had already obviously known what all I had done wrong with Maya. And luckily my relationship with Maya was so solid that she didn't develop,
Right.
I don't think, a kink in trust to me. But what Maya did was take the pressure and blast it out to innocent bystanders. That was the issue with Maya. Not with the beagle. The beagle would just flatten out a bit, and I would just not want to do it anymore. I just, hey, I have the long line on you. I can't be bothered. But the Garrett system is very comprehensive, and to this day, if someone absolutely feels the need to work on an e-collar, and for whatever reason the vibrate isn't even enough, and they're hell bent on going that route for whatever reason, I'm not judging people who come to me for consultations or advice. I always say, look, okay, here is the side effects that I always warn people about, like we all know about them, right? The force-free community makes very sure that everyone knows about it. What can happen if you da 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 da? There's a list of side effects.
Yeah, I've never seen it before.
Okay, so we have
Never seen any of it
okay.
ever.
So apparently,
Um, and
Yeah.
There's a reason for that though, and you bring up a really good point. The so even the way that you're describing that you learned how to use the e-collar afterwards, it's still being used as a punishment device.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
like for example, when you're trying to use the tone and the vibrate and the stem, that's three different things that are supposed to mean the same thing. And then you're also adding your verbal command on top of that. So now you got four cues for this one command you're trying to do, right?
Mhm.
So that adds confusion and frustration because the dog's not clear on how to make this pressure go away. They don't really understand what it means. So if you uh if you caught my other interview with Pete, I talked about Yogi, and that's where I learned how to use this collar so delicately. Because if I
Mhm.
would have went at it in terms of I need to find a level that's aversive enough to make him stop what he's doing, that would be death. Because
Oh, wow.
unless you killed him, there was nothing aversive enough to make him stop what he was doing. But what we
Yeah.
could do is we could establish a communication process, right?
Mhm.
And the point is not that the pain of the e-collar makes him stop, but it's more like a physical touch, right? And
Mhm.
it snaps him out of that frame of mind. But in the meantime, you have to teach him what it means. So for recall, for example, just to keep it simple, I start with leash on the dog and I pull pressure.
Yeah, of course.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
find a real low stem level, and I hold the button. And as soon as the dog
Mhm.
comes towards me, I release the button.
Oh,
So
classical.
at first,
Yeah.
it just teaches them it releases pressure. You can use a treat if you want. If you got a dog that's really treat motivated, release the
Yeah.
stem, give them a treat, whatever. Um, so they're just learning how to make that feeling go away. And over time, this aversive is a very low level, but it is technically causing stress in the dog's mind. So without the dog even realizing it, you're conditioning them to be able to think under stress, which is not
Uh-huh.
natural. When your body or dog, same way with dogs, anytime you have an adrenaline response, the more adrenaline is in your body, the more of your brain starts to shut down. And you get to a certain point where a lot of people talk about the threshold. Once the dog goes over threshold and complete fight or flight, they can't process information anymore. So
Right.
by
Yeah.
using the e-collar this way, it kind of conditions them to accept this stress and enjoy it because it's a lot like a game. And you only have to do this for a day or two, and then they take off towards the road, tap tap, and they're gonna spin and come right back to you. And it can be explained through operant conditioning, but it's more of a classically conditioned response.
Yeah, yeah.
Almost like drooling over the sound of the tone, the dog's just gonna
Mhm.
instantly spin and come back to you when you hit the button. So it's not about it, or I, usually it's not about them avoiding the aversive. Of course, there's going to be times where you can use it that way if the dog's just not responding. But when you're usually using it on a low level stem, and then you have an emergency setting that hits them, say,
Yeah.
10 or
Yeah.
20 levels higher, when you hit them with that and they're used to the low level stem, that really gets their attention and snaps them out of it. So it's not that you don't want it to be them avoiding the pain, because then you've got all these dogs that can tolerate pain, and like what you were describing with your dog, it'll escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate until you're actually hurting the dog and you're not really getting the results that you were looking for.
Well,
The
I did get the
e-collar
results,
was
but I'd rather would have not had to go to aversive levels. But also, I mean, your approach is obviously valid because it's one of the approaches that people use with the e-collar, right? I mean, it reminds me so what you're saying of what Garrett told me back when I wasn't even working for him. He was just coaching me for free, being such the kind man he is. He was saying, well, the way you were going about it, teaching the recall with going to the aversives, could have been better ways to approach this. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, I just
a little
tried.
bit.
And I didn't have any money
But
back
that's how
then.
a lot of people think that you're supposed to do it, and it makes sense, in theory, it makes sense. Especially coming from the era of training you came from. Then, I don't know. I'd say the '90s, early 2000s. There wasn't
Yeah.
really any talk of positive reinforcement or anything like that. It was
Not much.
all yank and crank compulsion training.
Yeah, not much. It was starting a little bit. We had a shift in legislation, as in judging goes. The dog had to, in the middle of my work there, had to, I would say mid-90s, the dog already had to work enthusiastically. So that was to
Yeah.
filter out the extreme compulsion that the German Shepherd handlers used. The Rotti handlers, if they were smart and knew what was good for them, not, because Rotties do come up the leash, if, especially the young males, if you
Yeah.
pound them too much. And it happened in the clubs quite a lot. But yeah, I mean, Garrett said as well that e-collar training, the way he's teaching it, is actually fun for the dog, even though that sounds weird. But I see what he means, because I have then become very familiar with his program. I still think it's great. And like I said before, I mean, if someone absolutely wants to go the route, I give them the spiel, hey, here's the negative side effects list, just consider that. But before you go out, buy an e-collar or use your existing mini educator in any which way, go get at least Garrett's program or someone else's program, or
You need to know how
something
to
that
use it.
is structured and is detailed and teaches also the practical application, say a livestock guardian. Without knowing what you're doing, you're never going to get the probe to sit on the skin. There'll be fur in between, and in the worst moment, that thing won't work. And then what do? Your safety net is suddenly gone, and you can only hope that the dog has a good enough memory of what could happen, because that thing is on me, and will not breach and try. That's one of the things that the program encompasses, all the gadgets that you can buy to, and the equipment to make sure that, the complementary equipment to make sure that the efficacy is as good as possible, so that
Yeah.
you have the safety. But even then, we had people mess up so bad. Like, I was sometimes so furious with, one shouldn't be with clients, right? But man, someone almost got their young dog killed because they said, yeah, I watched your program, obviously didn't, because we could see it in the back end, but made a big deal, Garrett's program, and let the dog hit the dog on, not just the mini educator, but the boss unit, on a high level, and the dog sprinted off onto the motorway, a big German Shepherd. Things like that are just so,
Mhm.
one of the reasons why I gravitated to the forestry field, because I just felt so bad to empower and enable idiots. I have to say it like that,
Yeah.
absolute effing idiots, to get their dogs harmed in that way. I mean, Garrett always said, hey, have a long line on, even after successful board and train with, say, a pit bull. Have a leash, even so the dog can off leash heel. But if you see a dog, put a leash on your dog. He was always, or still is, in have the safety net on. Just only rely on the e-collar, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's always better safe than sorry. People give me a hard time. Like I do a lot of extra stuff that I don't need to do, but I'd rather not need it 1,000 times than have a dog get smacked by a car or get a hold of the neighbor's kid or something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It only takes once, and your dog's dead.
okay. That's the problem. Yeah. So the way I went to
So,
the forestry field, if you want to hear that story.
oh yeah, yeah, go for it.
um, so there came a time when I started listening to Zach George. And I started listening first to Spy for Garrett, because I was like always having my nose stuck into the social media dog training stuff, and report back to Garrett in the team meetings, and oh, here's what this one's doing, here's Ivan's up to, and all that, and here's what Zach's up to with his campaign with Dog Daddy back then. And
Uh,
along some lines, I was just, oh, I can't even listen to this. Let me brush my dog Maya and just listen in the background. And then I was finding, well, wait a minute, actually, he's describing the problem I have with Maya, that then after that e-collar training had happened and stuff, she was getting more and more, not just reactive, but really aggressive and nasty with people she would encounter on walks, because we had to move to a populated area, because all the circumstances back with COVID, I think a lot of people had to do things they wouldn't have done voluntarily because the money wasn't available. So I had the problem that walking Maya, she would just load, and explode at people passing us, and joggers, cyclists, everyone was fair game, and we just had that river walk pretty much to walk in that time. And I thought, oh, well, that's a problem. And Garrett's method with just a suppression is not working. Joel Beckman's method with just ripping back on the leash and the collar is not working either. It's just making it worse. Put a prong collar on, try the Beckman method, making it worse. I mean, okay, even Beckman said don't use it with a prong collar, to be fair to him. But everything made it worse, and I thought I have to shift gears radically. So I had watched enough Zach George stuff by then to be able to channel his methods and just probably look like a complete clown on that river beach, like baby talking my dog in a loud, cheerful voice, like, "Oh, how's it going?" to everyone, so that she would understand they are not a threat for me. So I was just playing that role and having the treats ready, and so I would condition her if a dog comes or person comes, cyclist comes, I would not let her make the decision or even just heal her. No, I would just go over the top, start running, start slowing down, start cutting her off with left turns, and just baby talking her the whole time. Hey, here's a treat, pushing her in the river when a dog came so that she couldn't put the focus on and totally flip out as she did. Because also what's to consider is I didn't want anyone to call the cops and say there's a dangerously out of control livestock guardian around there, you
Right,
know.
right.
And I had to walk her because we didn't have a secured yard again in the second place we went to live. It was like a total nightmare. And so I did that. And to my shock, almost, it worked so well that within even days, but certainly a couple of weeks, a month maybe, she was going from person coming, ah, I'm gonna really try and get them this time, to, oh, person coming, yeah, great, let me just drop in heel position, look up, attention heel, and expect my treats. And people were then commenting, wow, that's actually a super trained dog. Oh my gosh, can I pet it? Like, no, don't ever
Right.
pet
There's
it.
limits.
I wasn't even saying that. I was just saying, ah, she's nervous around strangers. And then, oh, is
Yeah.
she bite? I said, let's not find out, right?
She doesn't bite me.
Doesn't bite exactly, doesn't bite me, but she looked so good that people actively wanted to pet her, and surely they would not have asked that question before. But my
Yep.
channeling Zach had actually turned things around for her to a point where she is pretty awesome. I can walk her anywhere. I mean, she'd still load and explode at a dog she doesn't know. But when have we last met a dog around here? Maybe a year ago that she didn't know, because it's so remote also where we live now. It doesn't even, she can walk through crowds of people. We had a busload of people mill about where we walked through, and she doesn't even need to be in heel position no more. She'll just mind her business and walk through, no problem. But back then, when she was just 1 year old, 1.5 years old, oh man. So yeah, that's how I got Zachified back then. And then with
I
my
fell
shoes.
for it the same way. I tried it. Not necessarily that I was totally going to be against punishment, but I tried it, and I was like, "Wow, this is a miracle thing." Like I had dogs shutting the door for me. They could work the windows in the car. This stuff is awesome. But I ran into some brick walls here and there, and I had to figure out a way to, you know, stay on course. It's kind of like driving a car. You can't be all gas all the time. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to press the brakes occasionally, and that's where the balance comes into play. Like I said before, though, the e-collar really opened up the door for me to be a lot more of a light-handed trainer.
Interesting, isn't
Um,
it? It seems contradictory, but I guess
it
no, it's
is.
not.
Yeah, because think about it. With the say, even with a martingale collar on, whatever kind of collar you want, if the dog runs to the end of the collar at full speed, even one time, if you were to find a way to measure the pressure
Mm-hmm.
and the discomfort the dog feels in that moment, that one time running to the end of the leash is going to be more discomfort than a week of me using the e-collar, right? So it also takes away the conflict. Like if you're jerking on the leash to give leash corrections, not that I won't do that, but the dog knows that that's you doing that. So you got to
Yeah,
have a good relationship and a bond and all that. So with the e-collar, it kind of takes away some of that conflict. It's just a feeling that you're
Mhm.
manipulating.
Mhm.
So yeah, it becomes a lot more of an enjoyable experience than when you're just kind of using it like a hammer when they don't listen. And there's a lot of balanced training. Sit here and tell you the words out of their mouth will be explaining that we're using this as a communication process.
Yeah.
But then when they actually use the collar, dog goes after the sheep, they smash the shit out of the dog screams, and now he doesn't want to chase sheep anymore. That's not that. That's them avoiding the behavior altogether, which is just the other extreme of what the force-free people are doing with the treats. Like the dog's not genuinely understanding the assignment.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a lot of your fallout from.
I mean, I don't think the force-free world can solve certain problems. And I say that after 3 years in it and having asked just about many, many authorities in there that I have seen or been told those are the authorities. And one of the
Yeah.
things is like Robert Cabral aptly says, nothing but an e-collar can override high prey drive. In a high drive dog, what else? Like you have a pit bull, like your Yogi. Yogi wants to go after someone or some other dog. What else is going to
So
override?
I've done it without the e-collar. I have done it without the e-collar, but the e-collar makes it so much better because there is that time, no matter how good you are, when you first let that dog off leash, and without anything connected to the dog, no way to physically touch the dog. If the dog decides not to listen, there's nothing you can do about it. So the e-collar is our safety net in that
Yeah.
situation, right? But for me, um, I don't want that e-collar on forever, right? The e-collar is going to be part of the training process, and then we're going to throw that thing up on the shelf, and we're never going to see it again. And the dog's still going to listen to me. Like Cowboy, for example, he's hunted from. Well, you're not from here, so it doesn't matter. But he came from New Jersey. He was bred in Tennessee, and he's hunted from Virginia to Washington D.C., like the whole East Coast of America. And
Oh.
when you go out in a rural area like this, recall's not as important. If he blows me off a time or two, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But when he was working in Washington, D.C., 3 blocks from the White House, and there's other
Oh.
people walking their dogs and there's cats, and he's out trying to kill rats, but he
Oh.
decides he wants to kill that cat, you have to be able to say no. And he has to stop immediately. And I was able to catch that on video here one day. People were giving me a hard time about the e-collar thing, and Cowboy, I was walking him over to his kennel off leash, and he took off after the kittens. So I took the time to
Oh.
start my camera, and he got about that far from the kitten before he grabbed it, and I called him off. And that's how it has to be if you're going to have a dog like that off leash. You know, the Patterdale, the Malinois, the Pit Bulls. If you can't do it without the e-collar, there's nothing wrong with keeping the e-collar on, but your goal should be not to be dependent on the treats or anything. If you're all right, think about it like this. In school, there's a difference between memorizing something and learning something. Something you memorized, you'll pass the test at the end of the week, but 10
Mhm.
years later, you have no idea. You can't remember any of it because you memorized it. You didn't really learn it. But there
Mhm.
are things like don't touch the red eye on the stove. You know that. You're never going to forget it. And that's kind of how it is. A lot of people use these tools as a crutch, but I want my ultimate goal for the dog to be naked. Like I don't even want a collar on the dog if I don't have to.
Yeah, it's a good goal. And just to clarify for viewers who don't know, Cowboy is your Patterdale, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Uh, Cowboy is your Patterdale Terrier, right?
Yes, ma'am. That's one of the Patterdales. That is my little nutcase. He's getting old now. He's 11 or 12 years old now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so next point on the points on our list, I'm just trying to keep keep to make sure that we cover them all. So we talked about where we're coming from in terms of dog training, or where I come from. I baffled on a lot about myself. So in terms of you coming from, So I always misjudged you. Like since I see you pop up in comment section. Zach Georges, for instance, right? And
Yeah.
I'm so
Yeah,
sorry
if you catch
again
me
to
at the
call
wrong
that
moment and you
George.
don't know where I'm coming from, it definitely looks bad, doesn't it?
I thought that's just one of those balanced guys, one of those guys, right? Aversive, doing probably bite work and having all these pit bulls in his yard and God knows what else.
Yep. Yep. I fit some stereotypes. I won't lie about that. All
So, but
right.
what is your
But
like
yeah, so
story?
as far as how I got into this, it was one of those things I was born into. Everybody around me had animals. I lived on a farm. We had farm animals. Um we had a border collie at one point, Australian shepherd that we really used to herd goats and bulls and cattle.
Wow.
So I was around animals a lot and I was an only kid.
Uh-huh.
So
Me
I just
too.
spent a lot of time just watching the animals. And then I did a
Mhm.
lot of hunting also. So I sat out in the woods and just watched the little critters and it was fascinating to see how they behave. And then as I got older, uh my later teen years, I met my biological father who was a professional hunter.
Wow,
And that's
okay.
when it got interesting. So he had a Jack Russell and a little beagle, and he didn't do much hunting with the dogs. But when I first moved in with him, I opened the back door and there's a raccoon standing there, standing on both back legs, just looking at me. So I shut the door and I ran in the house. I said, "Give me the gun. There's a raccoon on the back porch." He said, "You better not hurt my goddamn raccoon." I said, "Well, what do you want me to do with him?" He said, "Open the door, let him in." And I'm talking, this is a 35-pound raccoon, full grown wild raccoon. It's not like we can have pet raccoons here. This was a wild raccoon. And I'm thinking he's being sarcastic. So I go down there and I open the door and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? And the raccoon's like, thanks, dude. And just runs right by me and right up the stairs. And I panicked. So I
Oh
run up the
no.
stairs. I'm just thinking the whole time, he is going to kill me. I have let this raccoon in the house. And when I get to his bedroom, the raccoon is sitting on his chest, eating Reese's cups out of his mouth.
Oh my
You know what I
God.
mean? So these people have these raccoons. We had a couple of skunks that were friendly, like these wild animals. And it blew my mind. So after that, I started playing a lot with raccoons. Learned a lot about training them. And you're not going to be too forceful with a raccoon. I got news for you because as an adult, they're small. And if you piss them off, they will mess you up.
Oh.
So it started from there. Then I got my pit bull Casper. That was a unicorn of a dog. I'm very lucky that nothing really bad happened. Well, I'm lying. Some bad stuff happened with that dog, but it wasn't my fault.
Mm.
Got Casper, and then after that, I started doing the rescue thing because people were dropping off hound dogs on my road. I live in a swampy area, and about every 2 weeks, they would drop off an old female and a young male, and the old female would be pregnant. And this happened for like 3 months straight.
Oh, I gotta be
Um,
joking. Oh my God.
yeah. Oh, home so many dogs that year, and because our shelter didn't have room, our shelter was full. So we rehomed all the dogs, and it kind of got me a name. Everybody that had a dog that they needed to get rid of, well, Chris will take him for you.
Oh, great.
And I couldn't stand to see a dog put down. So over the years, the sweet beagles and hound dogs turned into aggression cases, and it got crazy. It got really, really crazy. I spent way more money on it than I ever made back. We never took donations for any of this. I took a total of $600 in donations over 10 years. And that was on
Wow.
2 occasions for emergencies.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so there's been hundreds of dogs. I've seen pretty much every quirky little problem you could ever imagine. I've had dogs that wanted to kill me, and I've had dogs that were so scared. If you startled them, they would spray poop like a skunk. I've seen the
Oh.
spectrum across the board.
Yeah.
Um, it's for me, I think it's kind of a coping mechanism as far as the training the dogs go and how I handle them. I take a lot longer than I probably need to fix some things, but I think in nuisance animal control, when you trap these animals, you can't go relocate them because if they have rabies or something like that, now you're
Yeah.
spreading rabies. So by law,
Oh,
you have to kill them.
oh,
So I've killed thousands and thousands and thousands of animals. So, you know, over the years that started to weigh on me, and I just don't
yeah.
I don't have it in me to be harsh with an animal anymore. Was my first pit bull, you're talking the early 2000s. He was a dangerous dog, but the way I trained him was the old school yank and crank on a choke chain. And if he nipped me or something like that, I'd smack the shit out of him. That's what everybody did. Now, I was more light-handed than other people back then, because other people would tell you to get a piece of PVC pipe and pop him on the head.
Oh,
That's what all the pit bull guys will still tell you that. I'll get a
oh,
puppy out here that won't stop biting on me, and they'll bust him in the head with a PVC pipe, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that.
yeah.
But yeah. So it's been a long road. I've done it both ways. I've done the more harsh training. I've tried the well, as much positive reinforcement as humanly possible.
Mhm.
And I don't know. I feel like I found something different, because no matter who I talk to on either side, they don't seem to really understand what the difference is between what I'm doing and what your other balance trainer's doing. Or I mean, honestly, there's a lot of times where I show videos, and if I don't tell you where the punishment or aversive is, nobody can see it.
Mm,
So, you know, I don't really fall into either camp. But
mhm.
not very many people can say that they've been successful with 100% of dogs.
No,
And
at all.
obviously not in my lifetime, but for the last 10 years since I've really dedicated into this, we've not failed one dog. We have not
That,
euthanized one dog for behavior, not one. We've never
oh,
had anybody get bitten except for my wife and I, and that might happen in the very early stages when we get the dog. We've never had a dog escape and hurt anybody. No dogs got run over. Nothing. You know, we've had some dogs that didn't find homes. We took one from Minnesota, and she had bit like 6 people. She went through a couple of dog daddies and a couple of Zach Georges, and
yeah.
bit all of them. She bit all of
Ah,
them. And then they tried to rehome her, and she bit that guy too.
oh,
We brought her back here, and she never even acted like she wanted to bite us. Nothing we ever. I can't imagine what they did to that dog to set her off. Um, yeah, so it's just like I said, I think it's a coping mechanism for me. I've dived way too deep into these dogs to be healthy. To be honest with you, I think is what it is.
but hey, I mean, as far as coping mechanisms go, that's a pretty good one. Pretty productive and saving dogs' lives. I mean, respect. And that's what it counts. I mean, our next point, like the main camps of dog training, right? The force free, the balanced, and the
Yeah.
what I myself even used to call fence sitters 2 years ago, the ones that are saying I'm force free, but also I use balanced methods sometimes. And I guess honestly, I would probably fall into that rather being a pure crossover trainer, simply because I never
Right.
found all the answers. And I speak and potentially, well, dangerous. She won't maul anyone, but if Maya got loose and bet up someone's dog, that would not be fun. And if that person then stepped in and tried to kick Maya off, that would not sit well with Maya, you know. So it is a
Right. Chain
potential
reaction.
dog. So I have to make sure she's contained. And I remember once having her on the Force Free World loves their martingale collars. So I have her on a martingale collar, and I sit down on my property, luckily. I have her on that collar, and there's cows walking past, running. The cows start running and coming close to the fence, and she loses it, and she just moves slightly. I didn't think she even was realizing I was attached to her. She just moved. I moved with her, and like on my on my ass slid down, the a slope of our garden. And I was like, if that was
Oh
in
no.
public, that would have been bad. I'm not risking this. So
Yes.
I put it back on a two Hermsprenger choke chains. One is like relatively sitting high up behind the ears. The other is low. None of them has pressure on unless, and that happens maybe once every 6 months, that she gets um, riled up by a herd of deer that spring up nearby in the woods. but because also we have very slippery and steep hiking paths in the mountains here, I can't afford to
Okay.
not have that safety on her. I don't want the prong
Yeah.
collar on her also because they're prone to either coming off the smaller diameters of Hermsprenger, right, or the thick clunky ones. I just don't like it, and she keeps scratching. It messes up the coat, and it's just a mess. But with the equipment I have like a long Biosane leash that's 8 feet and has 2 hooks, so the whole thing is double lead. So if even one collar and one part of the leash ever should snap, I still have the other. So
It's
with that, I
good.
feel safe and walking her in any situation. I know I can hold her with one hand if I have to in heel position. If I have to fight off another dog as I had to, or kick off another dog as I had to, because we know it happens. Um, but the forestry work was never able to answer that question. What do I do and others in my position to control a big, powerful dog that can have outbursts, even with the best training? So one holistic practitioner with lots of letters behind his name tells me, oh, in that case, you'd use the front clip harness. I said, well, yeah, okay, I've done that, but if she hits the end of that front clip harness with full force, I'm still flying through the air a little bit before landing on my feet again. That is
And
not
now
good
the
on a
dog can turn around backwards to come out of the harness.
yeah, which is double clipped to the collar, so he was smart enough to say that. But I'm still lying on my face, sliding down the mountain with a broken wrist. So how is that good?
Right.
And she's still running towards her goal, which might be another dog and a small lady with a mini pinscher on her leash. That's not a good situation. Letting go
That's
of the
right.
dog isn't a good situation either. So I would hang on, but I would at this point be very bad at. So then he says, oh, okay, I see. Then you just train the dog at home and don't walk the dog unless the communication is perfect. I say, well, I train my dog for many years now, and the communication is as perfect as it's going to be, except for those tiny little moments that can happen, that a trigger comes that she will not restrain herself but will go for it. And being a flock guardian, those instincts are so strong. Without e-collar, without prong collar, good luck trying to tell her that, please, can you wait and look up to me for guidance right now, rather than going for that wild pig that just appeared between the bushes, you know. And then I should leave my dog at home and not walk her and not exercise her. That was his advice. And I was like, bro, this is not practical advice that I'm going to give my clients.
Well, here's the problem with their theory there is even if you did try to do that, your dog is still going to develop triggers within that environment, right? Because fear is a it's kind of like a river. It never stops. It's always flowing. So if your dog is on that path of being fearful of things, because especially usually it's because they're underexposed anyway, and then you expose them even less, now they're going to start to be afraid of every thump in the night.
Exactly.
You have to, like you said, you've got to do something to expose them and build their, keep their confidence up.
Yeah. And I don't walk her often. I mean, the way we live in the private property is there's a lot of space and a lot of different mini environments. We have natural pond, we have pools, we have large gardens, we have birds, there's sheep nearby, there's a lot of variation. So we work the dogs twice a day at least. We train, we do a lot of enrichment and we walk. But if I have clients who have to walk their dogs because they don't have that luxury, they have to. What are they supposed to do? Maybe they don't have the €1,000 lying around or dollars to buy a dog treadmill for their big dog either. So what are they supposed to do now? They can't even walk them. I mean,
Right.
it's
What if you
that
live in the
advice of
city?
the world is terrible. And the next advice was put a head collar on. I say, oh, I see. I did that twice with different models. Maya, being in a panic because a loose dog approached us both times, bought the whole thing off with the other collar, the security collar that comes with it. It was fitted perfectly. She pulled it off within 2 seconds and stood there in public with another dog barking at her and the owner without any equipment. How is this a good situation? Now, because of our bond, she has the habit of both times stopping, and looking to me because she knows, oh shit, actually together is better than alone. So why don't you just grab me and put that equipment back on real fast so
Well,
I can continue barking at the dog?
tell me this: if aversives and tools are against the force-free ideology, harnesses and halties are aversive tools.
They are.
So why do they get to choose which aversive tools that they can use, but everybody else can't? Especially when both of those tools are a lot more physically forceful than anything I do with the e-collar.
Mhm,
And ironically, they call themselves force-free.
mhm,
They
mhm.
rely completely on physical force. And
Yeah.
that's my problem with that whole ideology. Uh it's not that positive reinforcement isn't a great thing, and it covers so much. So you can do so much with positive reinforcement.
Oh
But
yeah.
in trying to avoid aversives, you're actually making things way harder on the dog than they need to be. Because see, people forget. You know how when you get in the car and you don't put your seatbelt on, that the noise goes ding, 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 ding. That's an aversive, right? And we
Yeah.
have all sorts of aversives in our daily life, and it goes from that to maybe you commit a crime and have to go to jail, right? There's a wide range of aversives. So, we don't go around putting people in jail because they crossed the street in the wrong spot, right? The punishment needs to fit the crime kind of. But
Yeah.
where people make the mistake with punishment and aversives is, like I said earlier, they think they have to go to the high enough level to where it stops the dog's behavior immediately. And that's the flaw in the other direction. It's just as bad as the force free stuff. And to be honest with you, there's so much of it being pushed out to the public. There's something to all of it, but how is the average pet owner supposed to figure any of this stuff out? Like, how are you supposed to know what to listen to and what not to?
Is a good question. I mean, I always tell clients like, okay, the whole spiel, the ABSAF 2021 position statement, that forceful aversive methods can have these scientifically proven side effects, give them the whole list. But then I also say, look, to be realistic here, you got a dog, last client, or one of the last clients is the same dog that I have with the same drives. I said, realistically, you need something here to keep you safe when you walk the dog. Because now you're talking, you have a little.
Keeping their dog safe.
Exactly. And I had that all the time. The trips I had was coming in the force free world, and everyone was very supportive. As a crossover trainer, you don't get judged by them. It's usually very supportive. But then the moment you ask these questions and they can't give the answers, if you then would say truthfully, well, I'm actually still walking my dog on a slip lead because otherwise it's too dangerous, they would just totally judge you, in my opinion. That's why I openly even say that, other than to people that wanted advice, because I felt I have to give the best advice. And I say, here's what I do. But if you say that publicly, like now this is coming out publicly, I bet you if Zach George saw that, he'd think, oh my God, she's gotten like back to being a balance trainer, total disaster and nightmare. Gone over to the dark side again. But I never came out of the dark side because I chose to secure my dog and give my dog the pleasure of getting to go on
Right.
regular walks without endangering herself, me, or anyone else.
And that's what really matters, because you know what. And speaking of Zach George, I haven't been in his comments lately, but what I used to do in there when they would give me shit about a slip lead, if you go on their profile, and this is why most of them have blocked their profiles. I could go on any one of their profiles, all these force free people, and you could find every single one of them with a slip lead on a dog.
Mm,
Kyle Murphy is the biggest troll in Zach George's comment section because he volunteers for the shelter that used to have a TV show called Pit Bulls and Parolees.
yes, yes.
And after all this talking that Kyle has done and all the shit he talks, he finally got a little 45-second clip of himself on TV in that show, right?
Okay.
He's walking a three-legged dog on a slip lead.
Oh, wow. Right. There you go.
You know what I mean? It's hypocrisy, and it's silly because all they're doing is distracting people. Um, because instead of just saying teaching people how these tools work, the fact is they don't know how they work. They don't understand how to apply pressure and release it at a certain times and stuff like that. So they don't know how to explain how it works. In their mind, you really are just choking the dog until it complies because
Yeah,
they don't really understand how it works.
I
And
would
that's
even,
that's one reason why I like teaching people the e-collar above other tools because it gets that idea out of their head that they're physically controlling something. Um, because what a lot of people do is they put the collar on the dog, and even if the dog's sitting right beside them in the heel position, they got the collar pulled tight. So
yeah,
the language that you're talking through the leash, you're still telling the dog he's doing wrong, so he doesn't really understand. So when I teach them how to use the e-collar, after that, you can apply all those same concepts to how you use any other collar, and it still works. To teach people how to use a regular collar and then apply that concept anywhere else.
that is difficult.
No
Yeah,
matter what you do, they still go back to the just tug of war on the collar.
yeah, that's a real issue, and it's more brutal. It's way more brutal than a tap on the e-collar will be on a non-aversive level. I totally am with you right in that. I just don't feel comfortable anymore with e or prong collars myself, but I find that just to secure a dog, for me, the choke chain on a big, strong dog is just the old school tool I've pretty much grown up with, and I still trust it like none
Mhm.
other because it's never let me down. Prong collar, I just have qualms
I'll
using
use a
because
choke
I
chain
can't.
before I will use a prong.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have a problem with prong collars, but I don't like them. I've only used them on a couple of dogs, and that's because they came to me already they were already used to the prong, and that's what they understood. But if it's my choice, I don't use them.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I can, I advise anyone and everyone to hop to Zach's channel, learn how to use positive reinforcement to teach things, to train things in, teach swappies to dogs with moderate resource guarding issues. But then you get the cases with severe resource guarding, like Kevin Murder on his channel with the Springer Spaniel, right? Is a classical example where he shows how his process worked with that dog. There was a very severe, strong, dominant dog. And there's another thing in the force-free community, you're not supposed to say alpha and dominant and anything, but that was what that dog was. I mean, an a-hole of a dog is how I like to call them, the truly aggressive ones that have no problem nailing you as much as they can. And I think Kevin handled it perfectly. So that's an example where I'm happy to say recommend a potential client to and say I'm not gonna even advise you how to work with such a dog because I wouldn't even want to deal with such a dog. And that's the limit I set for myself. Okay, I work force free. I don't want to use heavy-handed approach on someone else's dog. I don't even consult that. I can touch up on it and I can give resources where people can turn to, but myself, no. And I think that's the damage that the force free people often are doing, that they don't draw that line and say,
That's right.
I want to
I agree
solve every
100%.
puppies. They say, I can solve everything. No, not realistically. You can advise people like I would maybe put the dog down, but then that's not fair. So I recommend them to someone else, which used to be balance trainers. Now I found Kevin that suits me perfectly because he has a very, I just like the approach as a personal preference. So I would feel very comfortable referring someone to him to work online or something. But that's just an example. But all too often we hear, and we hear that like every day almost in dog trainers' inboxes. I went to a veterinary behaviorist. They said, put my dog down. On your page, even, I saw that pop up 2 years ago, a post on your page for a border collie put down a sweet little collie because it was afraid and nervous. I mean, that's just, and a veterinary behaviorist once again went for recommending euthanasia. I can't tell you how often people came to Garrett and Will from a veterinary behaviorist or force free trainer having no other place to go to, and they were able to help. So then the dog is still alive. So that's not necessarily a bad thing, or how is that a bad thing just because they use the slip lead? I mean, Will Atherton swears by the slip lead, always has. Um, Garrett with his methods is more heavy-handed, but if they're able to solve the problem, we have a dog that's alive, we have owners who still have their dog, rather than being guilt-ridden, heartbroken, and minus a dog. So now what do they do? They will feel so guilty they'll never want to get another dog, and what a damn shame that is.
Yeah. Well, the thing is unfortunately the force-free community tries to take the shame out of euthanizing a dog.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's on one hand, I kind of get it. Well, you don't want to rehome a dog that bites, and you don't want to have a dangerous dog around. It's safer to just get rid of it. Uh, you know, we've had an increase of 100% since COVID. We have doubled our rate of fatal dog attacks in the United States. We're
Totally.
over 100 per year now. So I get it. There's a lot of people getting hurt by dogs and stuff like that, but the particular lady you're talking about is she's a good example of what I've experienced. The dogs that I've taken in that were just absolutely doomed and had to be euthanized, said so by 3 people or 2 or 3 people, multiple people. And then there's really nothing wrong with them. They're very minor behavioral problems. Like the stuff that lady does, she brings the dog in out of the shelter, right? It comes out of a little teeny concrete box. It doesn't know anybody around. They take it into a strange room that smells funny because it's like a doctor's office, and it's got those chemical smells. They put a bowl of food in front of it and then start poking it with a stick to see if the dog's going to react. And if the dog growls or bites at the stick, well, it's got to be put down. And she
Wow.
goes farther. She goes farther than to say, well, this is resource guarding. Training can fix this. She doesn't believe training can fix that, and she compares it to a mental disorder like schizophrenia. This stuff is yeah. The lady is insane. But the thing is she's not just a talking head on Facebook. This is what she does every day. She gets to make the call what dog lives and dies.
Wow.
That woman's killed more dogs than Parvo. It's a shame because a lot of your veterinary behaviorists, they don't seem to know much about hands-on training. And my wife is going through the schooling part of this stuff. And I kind of understand, because the way you read about things in a book versus how you apply them in real life, your understanding is going to be totally different.
Yeah.
And on paper, this whole force-free mentality thing sounds really good.
Nice.
In theory, it sounds really good. In a controlled environment, maybe it might work. But out here in the real world with uncontrollable variables, like we can't control everything that goes on around us. We can't control when the thunderstorm rolls in or a car goes down the street. It's just not practical, And I hate to see people going to extremes the way they do, really, because it's not rocket science. You don't have to hurt the dog, and then you don't have to avoid everything either. You just gotta give them a little sense, like got them this way or that way, but for a simple answer, I think that's the problem. They're looking to fall into one of these camps.
Yes.
And they can't see anything else.
Buddies and everything is supportive, right? I had that too.
Yep.
I was fresh into the camp and even 2 years into it. Oh, it's so nice. But then I never got these questions answered. And meanwhile, I still wanted to walk Maya, my dog, here. And these people weren't helping. They were just, I don't know, just, well, use this, use the canny collar is the newest fad. It's like, hey, my dog is probably quite able to paw that off as well, or will see it as very stressful and aversive to have something across her nose pressing down on these sensitive parts here whilst she's in a panic because another dog is running up to her. I don't see that as humane either to my reactive, panicking dog. I mean, her biggest fear once was the beagle breed. She was afraid of beagles because a beagle had run up to us barking, like my asshole of a beagle in the background would do too if he got loose. That's why he's not off leash. But she was then afraid of beagles. Imagine that. Until we brought a beagle puppy home, she was still afraid. She was foaming at the mouth. She was showing a fit. She wouldn't come near me because I smelled of the
Oh,
beagle. You know, it took me 2 days, and then I knelt down, had the puppy in my arm, and invited Maya into the space. And Mikey, the puppy, started licking her big nose, and then switch flipped, and her maternal instincts kicked in. She started licking him, and then the ice was broken. But that's not a dog that you want to manhandle with front flip harnesses and head collars. And how is that not an aversive tool? I fail to see
it
that.
definitely is. That's why it works, because the dog doesn't like that feeling, so it has no choice but to turn around. Like that's the definition of an aversive. It's yeah, it's crazy the lengths they go to just avoid a simple correction. Um, and corrections could be anything. People limit them to tools, but have you ever told your dog to stop doing something and they didn't do it, so you take a step towards them and they
Oh, yeah,
stop?
facial
That's an
pressure.
aversive. That's punishment. That's
Yeah.
negative punishment. So you know what I mean. An aversive can be anything. An aversive can be a look. I can look at my dog when she's doing something and she will stop, and
Yeah.
is literally to look at her, and that's an aversive. So when you think about it in terms like that, like the smallest thing could be an aversive. To say that I'm not going to use any aversives is just, it seems like an obvious mistruth, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
after
why
yeah,
even?
years into the journey, I have to say yes. And I wouldn't feel comfortable being put in any camp. It's just, I mean, I get to talk
Yeah,
now to people like yourself, Kevin, others, and force free trainers. Like I talked to a force free dog trainer yesterday, but day before yesterday, but also in the work he's showing, it's very sense making and logical, but he's firm, he's displaying leadership, even though he doesn't call it like that. The stuff works just fine, and he totally doesn't use treats, which I find very intriguing. So is an interesting talk, but that also isn't completely pressure free at all. It's just very clear and very easy to understand for the dog. So I'm moved past that, like judging people just because they don't fully agree with Zach George no more. But I used to do that. I think I just evolved through that and past it because I saw that if I can't find the answers, and I've really been trying hard to find them, who can? I mean, if someone can come to me and give me the track record, hey, here's how I fixed all these aggressive pit bulls or whatever, Rottweilers, Shepherds, okay, then, but that's the thing, you can't ask them that either because it's, oh yeah, that's not a process that is on camera, that is filmed. But say Zach George, like he's very good at documenting his cases, not aggression cases as such, but he has all these dog training series from A to Z. But there isn't like a dog that is like you, Casper, right? That is trying to eat someone or something or yourself, and you have to fear for your life. That is a different category of animal that you can't compare with a dog that's just a bit reactive or a bit untrained or young or
and the thing is you can't judge that until you've worked with the animal. There's plenty of dogs that I really didn't use punishment as part of their training program to speak of. But then again, there's some other dogs that there's no possible way that we would have got through it without it. Um,
I mean that's a
it's
it's like
go ahead.
in real, like you say, in real life some things that from the textbooks just don't match the situation. Like I love force free
Right.
work, absolutely. I think I'll always be a big fan of Zach George, even if he hates me, if he ever watches that video, collaborating with Bona Fide Canine. How can she do this? But I love working with my
Yeah.
be like at home or in tracking. Like I got a little reel of Mikey that I put on my YouTube today where he shows us his man trailing work. And this is completely force free. Anything scent work is completely force free. I love it. And zero pressure on the dog. The dog can pull as hard as it wants. And also the trick training world obviously is completely force free. And I just did a big trick training session with my dog today. But that is a different world than being out there with a human aggressive Rottweiler on a client's leash or a dog aggressive pit bull on your leash. And it's just not something that will be trained out of the dog with using treats and remaining under threshold.
That's another good topic that we forgot to get into earlier, the threshold thing. A lot of people, well, we did touch on it earlier. Teaching a dog to think under stress requires you to train with the dog under stress. So, in order to teach the dog how to behave when they're near their threshold, you have to push the dog to the threshold without going over it. And that's the game that people struggle with. They don't understand that you have to see some signs of pressure there, but without going to that point where the dog can't think anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's the point in time where the balance trainers will screw up. They'll give the dog an opportunity. The dog reacts a little bit and they correct it.
Mm.
And I don't do that. I'll let the dog screw up a time or two because what they'll do is like they'll react a little bit and then they'll sit there and look at it and then they might look back at me or something like that. Like anything to show me that they're thinking, and then I'll give them a little bit of guidance. But a lot of people are just way too quick to punish, 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 or reward, 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 reward. But yeah, you got to give the dog a little bit of time to think while they're at their threshold. And
Mhm.
people that are avoiding it or correcting the dog when they get close to threshold, they're kind of missing the whole experience. You know what I mean? They're not taking just a few minutes to let the dog live in that moment and see that, like, the dog just needs to have a moment to be there and process the smells and the feelings and you know what I mean, everything going on. And it's okay if they react a little bit as long as they don't totally lose their mind.
Mhm. Yeah, I
And
try to
over
do.
time you grow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a delicate balance, and sometimes yesterday I was a dog, I got it wrong, and it lunged after a car, and I was like, oh damn, I should have really stepped aside more, and but
Yeah.
that's how we learn.
But you know what? When stuff like that happens, because when I started recording myself, I realized that I was making a lot of mistakes that I couldn't see with my eyes. Like when I saw me on camera, it looked different. So I realized that we can make a lot of mistakes and it really doesn't matter to the dog. Like, you know what I mean? As long as there's some consistency somewhere, you can make a lot of mistakes, you can miss opportunities and stuff like that. And it's okay. Like I've got some videos up. The dog that came from Minnesota, her name was Puppy Cat. Very odd name, so everybody remembers her. But there was a lot of times where I showed that she'd be doing all right, but you could see the tension build up and then she would explode. And we just
Uh-huh.
walk her away. We'd walk her back to the front yard, give her just a minute, and then come right back to the same situation again, over and over and over until she stopped reacting. And you know, when we made mistakes and she blew up, that's okay. Just walk her away, but do it again. Because if she blows up and then that lets, or sorry, if she blows up and that causes the stress to be taken away and then you quit, then you
Ah,
rewarded her for blowing up. Now she thinks that's why I survived right there. So that's a huge reinforcement. But when you keep bringing her back, take her back, bring her back, and you're not trying to make her react intentionally, but if that's what keeps happening, you just take her away, come back, let's try it again, and then when she gets it right and doesn't react, then you end the training on a good note.
mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense at all?
Totally makes sense, and that's how we got our dog Maya used to the neighbor's dog when we moved in here, and the neighbor with her dog, she presented her dog just without announcing it. She just brought the dog out on the leash on the other side of the fence, and Maya totally lost her mind, and she was just saying, "Look, we're just repeating this a few times because she wanted them to obviously have a relationship." And after a few times, when Maya realized, well, that dog isn't going anywhere, it's very much staying and coming back, I got to kind of deal with it. Then she started to lower her guard a bit and check out that dog, and it's a submissive, very respectful young dog. And so she was then very much, very fast, a fast learner at that point in her life because we've been through the process a few times. And one day we really needed it because I was in the hammock. My husband was at the other end of the property, and the garden is a very long garden, and he was shouting, "Neighbor's dog is incoming!" And I didn't have time to even move much. I just put my book down, looked, Maya was lying next to me, and then already the dog came sprinting towards us. Had Maya not been used to that dog, she would have beaten that dog up so bad because she'd done that before with dogs that intruded in property. So that, but yeah, the system works, the method works, and once the connection is made that that trigger isn't a threat to that dog, usually a reactive dog will be completely safe around that former trigger, right? The problem only begins when you have a truly aggressive dog or a game dog that's set on killing another dog, then that won't help that much.
Yeah, those types of dogs are very few and far between. The A truly aggressive dog that just, whether they're dog aggressive or human aggressive, that's just basically hunting. That whatever they see, they just want to kill it. There's
Yeah,
not really that many of them. There's a lot of them that'll bluff and pretend to be that way,
yeah, okay.
but I hate to say it like this, and somebody will be judgmental, but we've had enough accidental fights here to where uh I got to see what's really inside of a dog. Most dogs will not fight past the point that they've really been hurt. As soon as a dog gets hurt, they quit. They don't want to fight no more. And if the dog wins, once they've pinned the other dog or the other dog submits, plays dead, whatever, the dog's like, done with it. That it's over. But then you have that rare 0.01% where they don't see it like that. And I'm not sure how I feel about those dogs anymore. There was a
Yeah,
time, there was a time where I would own a dog like that, but the older I get, I am starting to see people's point that maybe, as far as most especially in the pet dog world, that's a dangerous dog to have around. True aggression, like the dog aggression thing with the pit bulls. It's an undying thing. Some pit bulls can be around other dogs, and some can never. Um, the reason that's manageable is because they're so unlikely to redirect onto a human. I've only had two in my life that would even bite a human, and one of them, it was only like a redirecting thing. So it's very rare that they'll redirect onto you. You can take a breaking stick, put it in their mouth, twist it, pop their jaws open, and you got them. And a real pit bull is 35, 40 pounds. It's a medium sized dog. It's not hard to handle. So you can handle a dog like that. But a shepherd or anything that's looking at a person the way a pit bull looks at another dog,
yeah,
man, that's dangerous. It's
that's
really
dangerous.
dangerous.
Yeah, and we both have met dogs like that. And then there's a tendency, I've seen that in Europe, and I'm 99% sure that that was what was in that dog, like a Belgian Malinois going, the way they usually are, like Robert Cabral's dog, very like a gazelle, very elegant, right? That dog, and Garrett Wing also said that in the American lines, or I'm not sure which country lines, I must say, but he said there's a specific category of what they call working line Belgian Malinois that is bred with pit bull, and that's just a totally different type of dog. Very good for law enforcement to make them into apprehension dogs for obvious reasons, but bring them in the sports world. I believe I met one of them as the dog of a French ring handler, and that dog gave me the creeps. I mean, I had to touch it to prepare it for competition because the judge would also have to touch everywhere. And it was like, yeah, okay, just sweating whilst they did it. But it's not a dog
Yeah,
that
you got to be very, very careful with something like that.
just an accident waiting to happen. Handler aggressive AF, going
Hmm.
for the decoy for the man, not the equipment, just like an aggressive son of a bitch. And I remember accidentally when I was starting walking him, assisting in decoy work, walking him in the transport position between the legs. that the dog had automatically assumed I was supposed to heal him as part of French ring test, with another person. So he was healing just fine, and the handler was saying, "Oh, I got him." I was like, "No, thank you." And then he switched. He pushed himself between my legs and assumed that position. And then the handler was letting out an almighty yell to stop us both in our tracks, because he said that dog, when he takes that position, is very likely to go up and try to bite you. So obviously I didn't have protective equipment. But that was, in my opinion, an extremely insecure dog. And he said himself I couldn't even sell him as a protection dog because he'd bite everything, everyone, without even flinching. He didn't care.
Yeah, that's no good for anything.
No.
Well, I tell you what, we're an hour and a half in, but I think this is a perfect time that I will talk about that dog Casper that
Yeah.
hurt some people. I think we're far enough in now. I don't think a lot of people are even going to hear this part of the story. And like I said, I've never really got to tell all of it before because, yeah, I don't really want to get anybody in trouble or anything like that. And I don't, you know, I don't think it's an issue anymore because it was so long ago. I got this dog. This was a real game bred pit bull. And I got this dog from people that were fighting dogs.
Oh.
And like I said before, everybody in this story is dead. The guy I got the dog from, the lady that introduced us, my friend that took the dog, the guy that took the dog after me, the lady he bit, literally everybody's dead. So even the dog.
Terrible.
So don't come after anybody.
Yeah.
But so long story short, we get this dog because the guy has a superstition about white dogs. There's a superstition about white dogs and dog fighting. People don't want a white dog. And he was like,
Oh.
look, $50 or I'm gonna shoot him right now. So
Oh.
my friend was like, don't shoot the dog, man. We'll take him. So I end up with this dog at about a year old because these people, they didn't even have their own place to live, right? It was just we call them a trap house, but it's where everybody sells drugs out of this house. There's like a bunch of people
Wow.
that live in there and sell drugs. So it's a really hostile environment. There's way too many people there. Everybody's drinking and being crazy and all that stuff. So the first year of this dog's life, he's growing up with cats, dogs, and a bunch of crazy drunk people. So after I took him, I did a lot of training with him, and back then it was very simple. I didn't do any sleeve work or anything like that. I taught him to bite you in the chest, and that was it. I did it by holding a basketball.
Oh.
So he worked with me for a little while in the bars and stuff like that. He bit let me think. I remember 5 people that he bit that he put on the ground. And oh God, I don't know, 20 or 30 people that I had him go up to and just bark and show his teeth and spit slobber all over him. And I saw that dog make grown men cry. Like grown men literally cried. Chris, please get that dog. Please, please, God, get that dog. And they didn't want no parts of him. We had I had a friend that he wasn't very smart and he almost sicked my dog on one of my other friends one day. One of my friends was nervous, so Casper let out a low growl, and my buddy was like, "Watch him, Casper." Just playing. But that dog, and as soon as he leaned down, I knew what he was getting ready to do, and I tried to yell no. The dog took one jump and stopped on the back of my couch, face to face with the guy, and just showed his teeth. And I was like, dude. So a lot of close calls, right? I'm only 18 years old. I had no idea what I had. I loved the dog, and he listened very, very well. I also used him to hunt with, but he could be around animals. He had no problem with animals. Men was a totally different story. He loved women, loved children. He was around all of our children. Great dog, great family dog. But when he turned on, it was serious. So years go by, and I ended up having to move to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and where I was going to move was absolutely positively not going to let me have a pit bull. Just was not going to happen. So a friend of ours that had known Casper since he was a pup said, "Yeah, I'll take him." And this was a really kind-hearted, good-natured guy, and he knew my dog, so I felt all right with it. And I gave him a few. I was like, "Look, you know about this. You know about this. If this ever happens, you have to say this, right? Like, I don't say no, I say ah. I was like, if you sit there and say no all day long, if you don't say ah, you don't know what you're talking about. So, well, I done set the other dogs off. So anyway, long story short, uh, he has company come over, and this guy's been drinking a little bit. He tries to rough house with Casper. Casper bites him right in the nose, splits his nose open.
Ouch.
So Todd's like, all right, maybe I need to get him neutered. And my buddy told him, he's like, Todd, you know how he is. This is not that kind of, you can't let him play with drunk people. You can't let him play with strangers. Like, he's not going to bite nobody, but you can't let him do that. Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, I know. And the next thing I knew, I got a phone call because him and his wife got into a fight. Well,
Oh.
they didn't get into a fight. She commenced to beating his ass one night. And
Oh.
he said about the third time she slapped him is when Casper came across the bed. And because as soon as she hit him the first, Casper started coming. And he said, I remember getting hit the third time when she just flew out of my face. Casper had come up and grabbed her by the face and just took her to the floor. And he was shaking her. And he
Ow.
said he shook her for quite a few minutes, and he's hanging on to the dog, screaming, "No, no, let her go, stop, stop, let her go." And finally, he goes, "Ah!" Casper jumped up off of her, and then he let him
Oh.
go, and he jumped back on her again. And this is to the face.
Ow.
So this time he had figured out his mistake. He called Casper off. He put him in the bathroom, called the ambulance. She had several reconstructive surgeries to her face.
Oh.
Um, And then after that, he finally started handling the dog a little differently. But that was a really serious dog. He was so good with me. Uh, but me giving that dog to him almost cost that lady her life.
Mm.
Uh, to be, just because I can handle a dog and the dog is perfectly fine and obedient for me, if something were to happen to me or for whatever reason the dog is being rehomed, you also got to worry about if that person can handle them or if they're going to even be able to remember something as simple as a noise. You know what I'm saying? Like a command to tell the dog. They don't understand that the dog doesn't speak English. So no, stop, please don't. It means the same thing to us, but to the dog, those are just words.
Yeah.
And yeah, that went really, really bad. However, it was not ruled as an unjustified bite. He was allowed to keep the dog. Him and his wife stayed together until she passed away, and then Casper passed away 1 month before Todd did. They passed
Wow.
away at the same time. I think Casper lived to be 16.
16. That's a phenomenal age. My first
Yeah,
working dog too, so he lived till 16. That's a great age. Wow, that's. Thank you for sharing the story. That's amazing. Well, in a scary way.
yeah. That was a lot, way too much dog for me to have at that age. Looking back on it, I'm very, very, very lucky that I didn't get myself or someone else hurt.
Yeah, I mean, hustle probably for me too. I mean, I remember when I brought home a shepherd from the shelter, crazy, crazy reactive, like a Malinois i- in temperament and build, but she was breed-wise, she was a German sheepdog, not exactly German Shepherd. There's a different breed. They're quite close to Dutchies and Mallies in their makeup. And she was very human reactive and everything reactive when I got her. But she was also obedient. I trained her in the field and in the clubs. And one day again, I let them all run off leash as I used to exercise them along the railway lines. Just that day there was a worker there and they never seen someone being on top of the railway, like dressed weirdly and doing something. And they charged that guy and apprehended him, like in the blind in protection work, right? Hasso was just barking
Oh
as he
yeah.
was healed, and Laska would jump up and snap her teeth in front of his face, like some dogs do in the blind. But it's very scary, even if you have the stick, because you, as a decoy in IGP, you only have the arm, you don't have the full bodysuit. So if you have that happening, I've always found that very scary. But that was happening to him, and I was shouting my head off. They wouldn't recall for whatever reason. They thought they have to do that. They have to charge him and stay in that dynamic. I was getting finally close to them, sprinting to get to the scene, close to them enough to recall them and leash them, and nothing had happened. They hadn't made contact, but I mean, things with Hasso also could have gone much worse because he was a pretty serious dog. He almost got a burglar. A burglar just was able to literally jump the gate. My dad saw the foot disappear, and Hasso almost got him. So I don't know what he would have done with him, but he was 40 kilos, 70 centimeters at the wither, so like the size and weight of a big Rottweiler. He was serious dog. So, and I was a
Yeah,
teenager,
yeah.
12 years old when I got him. I mean, in that age, we're naive and just do the best we can. And I mean, you succeeded. Nothing worse happened. Okay, the lady that is, but also, I mean, how does it occur to you to start smacking your partner when you share a dog like this? With Maya, I wouldn't recommend my husband to try to start smacking me either, because I'm the primary person for her, or anyone to start smacking me. That would be a very bad idea. So how does the brain not understand that? So I don't even blame
You'd
the
be
dog.
surprised how many people will start fighting and horseplaying in front of dogs. Apparently, a lot of dogs will tolerate it, or if nothing else, they won't get involved in it. But I think what it was they didn't really believe me about the other side of Casper because he was so sweet, so loving, so
Wow.
well behaved. I mean, I walked all over Richmond City. This dog never wore a leash. If I put a leash on him, it was most of the time hanging on the ground while he walked. I'd work inside the bar, from 6 p.m. till 1 a.m. and just walk back and forth. The Casper was set outside by the front door. We'd
Right.
just let people walk in and out. Everybody knew not to mess with him too much, but he was friendly enough to everybody. He knew to sit out there. He wouldn't go anywhere. Um,
Right.
it was a somewhat of a rough little bar. So, we'd have fights out there, people we'd have to drag out, and they didn't want to stop immediately. And I could tell the dog to stay where he was and he wouldn't get involved. Um, yeah, he was perfect in a lot of ways, but like I said, I don't think they really believed me about that side of him. I mean, because he could turn it on just like that, and it was scary. I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's the dog's name was Bishop, and the video it's a white pit bull. I think it might have a little eye patch or something.
Yes,
And
I've
there's a
seen
black
that. Oh
lady,
my
and
God.
she's about to cry, Bishop, stop! And the dog's growling right in her face. That was
Yeah.
Casper. That
Wow.
100%. If I saw the video and didn't know what it was, I'd have to look close to make sure that wasn't my dog.
Oh my God.
When a dog can do that to someone, it's terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Huh. Fascinating.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's a
two
good
totally
story.
different sides to that dog. And think about it like this: what if I would have turned him over to a rescue or something like that? They wouldn't have
Mm.
said anything and adopted him
Oh,
out without any warning.
yeah.
Or what if I hadn't have trained him the way I did and he wasn't so friendly with strangers or babies, or other animals, whatever. There's a lot that could have went wrong with that dog. A lot. And
Mm.
I have to hold a special license to handle squirrels, chipmunks, raccoons, possums, teeny tiny little animals that can't really hurt you. I have to recertify every 3 years with my state, and the test is like 400 questions long. And then I
Wow.
have to pay an extra $100 to have the license to handle squirrels. But I can go out and buy pit bulls. I can have pit bulls, Cane Corsos, anything. You name it, I can have it without
Yeah.
anything. All I got to do is get it a rabies shot, and I'm allowed to have any dog in the world, whether I can handle it or not. And I think if we stop that, then we'd stop seeing people get hurt so much. The shelters would empty, the rescues would empty. It wouldn't fix everything immediately, and a lot of dogs would probably be euthanized, but it would fix our problems within about 10 years, or fix them
I
good enough to where we could actually put the resources into what's remaining.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, in this country it seems to work. Like my dog Bria, unfortunately, got attacked by a loose, not XL bully, pocket bully. But it was bad enough. It was bad enough, and it came for me when I started um, shooing it off of Bria, swinging my long leash at it, and I was so hell bent keeping it and the other dog that came with it away from Mikey and me. Uh, but it was very traumatic for me because I was under the impression, well, all my yelling and posturing and using the leash like a whip, I don't know if that will work. And if it breaches or I slip in the mud, I had just sandals. I wasn't dressed for battle that evening. It was just a leisurely river walk. Then we're effed royally. I end up in the ER. My beagles are dead. And then what?
Mm.
And I was just about able to keep them off. The owner eventually did what I did back then with my dogs when they went for the railway worker. Came just enough close, not too close, but came close enough to be able to do an effective recall. He didn't try to get to the dogs because that could have made them breach easily when the owner's suddenly there, right? So he did the best thing in the circumstance and removed himself. Unfortunately, then we had to go to the cops because we realized our dog is really bleeding bad. Suddenly, it came on just 10 minutes after the bite because she was in shock and stuff. It was just a nightmare. But the police were so baffled by what happened. Like, I had to come 3 times to the station for various statements and proceedings. And I talked maybe to 10 officers and they were all very compassionate. One of them had a similar thing happen to him in the same city, but they all said this is very rare because of the BSL regulations we have here, that the licensing has got very strict requirements, and like in public, they always need to be leashed and muzzled and on a short leash, 3 foot only. So they can't even physically get the leverage to pull someone over and get to their dog and kill their kid or whatnot. So it usually doesn't really happen. So it just happened to me. I mean, in a way, good, because if it had happened to one of the many elderly ladies with their little mini pinchers and their chihuahuas, could have broken someone's hip, would have totally killed their dog. That
Right.
bite would have punctured the lung of a very small dog. It was deep enough. So yeah, it's still not good. I'd still rather these dogs didn't even exist, to be honest, because I'm in these groups where we see all these cases pile up. We have 66 people dead by bully breed dogs last year. There's already over 40 this year, and 27 of them so far, I think, by bully breed dogs or dogs were labeled as such by the media, because we don't get the correct information anyway, which is frustrating all
Right.
by itself. So it's a major issue, but I have friends in the groups who run these groups and pages, and people like, oh, but that's so dark about it and joking about their pit bulls. I'm saying, yeah, well, if you got your kid permanently mutilated, your child, and you had to protect him or her with your life, like some people have, what would you say on social media? Wouldn't you want a place to vent about it and just like we call it dark humor, like we're all dog lovers in the groups, like the closer knit circle. We have dogs, we just had attacks happen in the family, and uh, it's just traumatizing. I don't think these people who say, well, you shouldn't joke about that and euthanize pit bulls. That's not good. You're dog trainers. Like, go fuck yourself. Had you ever got your kid attacked or your dog attacked, or you were in fear for your own life, and was nothing between you and an attacking pit bull snapping at your face and a leash and your voice to try and fend it off? Try that and then see how you feel. But yeah, neither of us are like anti-dogs or would hurt a pit bull outside of defending themselves. That's the biggest misconception people have of us in the groups like cringe lords or shit bulls or what all they're named. It's just crazy to me because also like one of us recently said to me, look, this is so insane. These people saying, oh, it's so bad that you're doing this. But if you didn't want to see that and want to discuss and get involved in the conversation, why don't you just click not interested in Facebook or in Instagram? You wouldn't see that. I mean, I don't like certain, like snakes, or I'm kind of afraid of spiders and stuff. They just creep me out. So I click not interested if I see tarantula content, for instance. I don't give tarantula lovers a shit because I doesn't make sense to me. But
I think the way that a lot of places are going at the legislation, the licensing process, uh, it's based on restrictions, right? So if you've got I guess in your country, if you've got a bully, you've got to have a muzzle, you got to have a certain leash, right? There's mandates like that. But I believe it was Spain a few years ago. Uh, Not sure if it passed or not, but they proposed something more like a mandatory education
yes, that is part
in
of
order to have a
Spain.
license to get the dog in the first place, and that covers any breed of dog.
Oh,
Um,
okay. No, I don't think
so
that.
now,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think we need to limit people that want to have like a pug or something like that, but uh, I've actually got a lady that'll be on next week that was attacked by a dog, and her whole social media is around fatal dog attacks. Uh, and one thing that I'm going to be bringing up with her is if you can look back for the last 30 years on all these well documented fatalities, and I've only been able to find one out of, I think it's like 400, one single case of a working dog in a working home responsible for a fatality. There was a 14-year-old boy that went into a kennel to feed a bunch of Dutch Shepherds.
Oh,
There was like a dozen of Dutch Shepherds that ended up killing him. But besides that, it's Corsos, Catahoulas, Great Danes, Pit Bulls, Bulldogs, Boxers, German Shepherds, working breeds, and pet homes.
yes.
And if you also look at the shelter population and the rescue population, um, we can't say for certain on the rescue side, but the shelter population is 70% from pet homes. And that's if you count backyard breeders as not being just regular pet owners.
Hmm.
It's unfortunate, but we really have to point the finger at our general public.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really ultimately where we have to address the problems, because those are the ones that's handling the dogs. Those are the ones that are breeding the dogs. I think you were talking in the beginning about uh where you were at before you could breed a German Shepherd. They had to go through all these titling processes.
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea. Do you still do it like that there?
I don't know. I've not lived in the country for a long time. I left for Switzerland when I was 20, and I haven't lived more than 3 months in the country since then. And now I live in
Oh,
Portugal.
okay. Yeah, and I think something like that would really help too, because you know, in every aspect, I'm sure it works the same in the pet dog world, but as far as hunting dog goes, or hunting dogs go, I've had good luck with my Patterdales. Um, I've got one over here that will not hunt, just genetically is not cut out for it. But I've had good luck with them. But when it comes to the American Pit Bull Terriers, I spent a lot of thousands of dogs, and I bought about 8 dogs in a row that just no good for it. They just did not have anything in them, and
Nice.
it's because people are just breeding dogs based on what they look like, or just to have a litter of puppies. You know what I mean? The dog's never had to prove anything. He's never had to show
Yeah.
anything. All he had to do was wake up, and he somehow has the right to be bred. And that's really putting us with some sketchy dogs out here.
Yeah, especially as it comes to the working line. I mean, my dog too, Cora, she was from working line. As far as her father was concerned, like the local dog trainer asked me to please look into adopting her because she wasn't aggressive enough for the average person to want to buy her. So they gave her away for free, and he was concerned if no one adopts her, rescues her, they might kill her because she's too docile. But she was perfect working obedience. She wasn't cut out for the bite work part. So she worked obedience, she worked tracking just fine. Um, but yeah, too shoddy breeding. And when she was 6 years old, she developed DM, degenerative myelopathy. And this is a horrific degenerative disease. So over 9 horrible months, we lost her bit by bit. If I had ever this
Oh,
again, That's the reason why I don't adopt. I only adopt retired breeding dog like Bria, who had all the health testings done on the parents, because I'm not going through that again. This was so bad. But shoddy breeding, she could still be with us. She could have lived to 14, 15 years old, easy, if not for that.
Yeah, the worst thing in the world is to lose the dog early. Boy, I tell you. Um, Matter of fact, the last pit bull I bought, the guy couldn't figure out why he acted the way he did. Major was a great worker when he felt like working, and when he didn't, there was nothing you could do to make him do anything. Uh,
Okay.
Turned out he was diabetic.
Oh, right.
Yep. Nobody had any idea. And yeah,
Yeah.
so uh, that was just one more example of, and I'm not even going to say that guy's a terrible breeder. He produces pretty good dogs, but skips out on a little bit of the testing, health testing, this and that. And yeah, the dogs and the customers pay for it.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's
I've
sad.
been rescue for so long, but with buying dogs, man, I've really seen how messed up the dog world is trying to buy dogs.
Yeah, I mean, Maestri, because of that, what happened, I've stepped away from rescuing conventionally. I just, when Cora passed away, we had already got Mikey as a puppy, and I contacted Mikey's breeder a few weeks after Cora had passed, told him what had happened, and described the age and the temperament of the dog we had just lost. So he was then saying they have one in their yard that is now a retired breeding dog, and they would be happy to hold her with us if we would take over the sterilization and stuff. So similar in temperament, similar in age, similar in energy level. So essentially background dog, because ours were still young and energetic, like Mikey, puppy, Maya, 1 year old, yeah, young adult, Maya's 3.5 at that point, or 3 years old. And that's exactly what we got. And she's perfect. Like, I can only recommend people go that route. Go to a breeder, build a relationship with a professional breeder, because they have a big network. So you build a relationship with a lot of people through that. And if you want a dog, if I wanted a dog, I could call Paolo, say, hey, bro, I want a dog. He would just ask, okay, what gender, what about age? Okay, I'll find you something in his network that was about in a process of rehoming due to whatever reasons. Because sometimes for breeders, even dogs don't work out, they wash out, they don't perform in conformation. Like in the beagle kind, they don't work test them here in Portugal. Obviously, working bred beagles are different, but here's just show line beagles. So that would be so easy, and you'd know that you get a dog that won't have epilepsy, that won't have spinal stenosis, that won't have joint and bone problems, won't be prone to back problems. And many people in the beagle owners groups are traumatized because, oh, my dog is 3 years old and already is handicapped, can't walk, can't move its hind legs because of back problems, IVDD vertebrae, that disc disease that they get, like dachshunds get, from a badly bred beagle without enough genetic variety that can happen. But the variety
Is
is
it like
what
a
this,
degenerative disc disease?
huh?
Is it degenerative disc disease? Is that what it
Uh,
is?
I think so. It's IVDD. I think that's the thing that dachshunds have. That is like a degeneration of the um, intervertebrae. The discs of
Yes.
the spine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Yep.
or
I
spinal
have that
stenosis.
myself.
That one. Oh, sorry to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah. This hip dysplasia, I've seen a lot of that in dogs, and it's so sad. It's something that is so easily preventable.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
don't breed dogs that carry that gene. It's so sad, and it's becoming more and more common. Like there's somebody there's somebody I would like to draw some attention to on social media that I've been debating about. perfect example. He's breeding these pit bulls that are
Oh,
so deformed. Their feet are all turned. They look like they got rickets. You know, their elbows are poked out, the back legs going
yeah,
this way.
yeah.
And but these dogs are like direct brother and sister, inbred off direct brother and sister, inbred off brother and sister. I can't believe the dog doesn't have 6 legs.
My God.
Uh, but yeah, and they don't care. They just keep pushing out puppies. The bully community is the worst for it. I've seen some bullies that don't even look like dogs anymore.
Yeah, we joke about it in the group, but not even that. Like many of us in the groups share these posts and say, "My God, these poor dogs." I mean, that's just not. It's totally inexcusable making animals suffer like that. And
Yeah,
then
and
they
it's
call us
it's
in the groups animal abusers. That's a joke. I mean, we're not doing anything bad to bullies or pit
right, but
bulls.
we're jokingly serious. It's real.
Yeah, it's the breeders, it's the owners, it's the pity mommies or the pit hacks, as we like to call them, the rescue hacks, as we like to call them. They get dogs euthanized and they get other people bit and kids killed and dogs killed and cats killed. I mean, where does it end, you know? That's who we regard as the enemy in a way. Like I never had issues with game dog people, like you know how it used to be in people issues when certain someone was just calling out Wes Brown here and there and everywhere, and it's like, bro,
Yeah.
I had the patience of an angel. I never had any issue with him. We had some good conversations in there when the group was still a group and not a cesspit of rage bait like what it has become. The viewers who
Yeah.
know.
That lady was banned from the group, but I can still get in there anytime I want. I just kind of faded away from it because it got so ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just craziness in there now.
Yeah, but that's like probably the worst group out there. Like ours, cringe lots and such is all private these days, and I'm just only in the private groups anymore because I just don't want the aggro. I just want to, you know, have chats with my friends there, keep track on what happens in terms of attacks, hopefully raise a bit awareness here and there and everywhere. Also about the Corso breed, you know, because we're seeing more fatalities caused by them, 3 or 4 this year alone.
Yeah, they're becoming popular here.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, it's so weird, you know, we should be totally up. That's something I wanted to bring up because I don't think many people will know that. So us talking, me kind of like sitting between all chairs, but used to call myself Force 3 and thought, oh, surely if I learn enough, I'll totally be 100% that. I'll find a way how to manage Maya without any aversive tools. Just I never got to that point. So I kind of have to accept the reality. I can't call myself fully Force 3 because I still use some tools to keep my dog safe. But anyway, so why isn't the average Force 3 person either saying anything about pit bulls that's remotely negative in public, or not saying anything, like not talking to people like you? Because you would be surprised how often you'd think this is just because they're stuck up or they just, you know, they don't want to, like they feel snobbish or arrogant. But no, in these certifications, you know, the people with the letters behind the names, oh, Victoria Stilwell Academy, Karen Pryor Academy, um, and these different like 4-letter designations that they have, like
Hmm.
trainer certified via this, behaviorist certified via this group of letters. The fine print in these certification bodies forbids people to say engage, like literally engage in inflammatory discussion on social media. Imagine that. If they went to
Oh,
talk to
really?
you or spoke their mind
Wow.
about, hey, pit bulls are killing people and dogs, like you said, the list is double as much as it used to be before COVID. They would be violating their own code of ethics and possibly lose their certification.
Ugh. And see, I don't like any type of censorship. You know what I mean? Like even in something that I don't like, you still have you still have the right to say it. If man, that's a tough one. When it comes to like a certifying body, they're allowed to make their own rules, but as long as you're not saying something that's not true, then mm, it should be okay. But then when they use terms like inflammatory or controversial, you know, that's when the waters get muddy. Because, for example, Zach George can make all the controversial posts he wants, and it's not going to affect his viewership. But if I talk
Exactly.
about an e-collar, my page was restricted for 3 months just because I said the word e-collar.
No. Oh,
Hmm.
wow.
Yep, I posted one hunting video where I showed cowboy making contact with the groundhog, restricted me for like 2.5 months on that too.
Oh,
Um,
dang.
there's certain keywords, anything controversial or disturbing or any of that. And then the bad part is they won't even. Well, all right. I'm not gonna say they won't notify you because there will be a little colored check mark by your name, and if you just happen to click on that, it'll tell you what issues your page has.
I know,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so but it depends on who you are on social media, what you're allowed to do. I've seen some people have to break away from these organizations, and then again, I've seen a lot of these people, most free side, because organizations aren't very legitimate anyway. But they're really trolling hard on social media. So if there was a rule about them not being inflammatory, they sure broke that.
Yeah, I mean, look at Shikashio, for instance. He was head of one of these organizations for many years, for 2 terms in succession. So he obviously thought he can do what he wants. And Frenzy Fenzi, as I used to call her, who went up against Zach George, being just a nasty bee, along with her Sailor Jerry bestie, is just completely ridiculous, like totally off the rocker, totally off the rocker. And then
Yeah.
she fried her poor dog in a hot car and blamed the car for it. Fancy did.
Yeah.
And then she shut up on social media. That finally that's put a sock in her mouth, but the poor dog had to die for that. Wonderful. I mean, Zach George himself isn't in any of these organizations, interestingly, and he said in a public live once that he he can't be because his freedom of speech would be tampered with. And that's the reason why I'm never gonna certify with any of these things because I'm all over the place. Like I'm so controversial. I had to take my review page down because I had to have lengthy Facebook processes to get the nasty fake reviews off because people see I'm anti pitbull and I used to be anti this and anti that, so very controversial. So right away the pit tags would pile into the into the review and make up all kinds of shit. And Facebook eventually took it off, but it viewed a lot several months. So now I just got a very nice review today. But I'm just asking people to give the reviews, and I comment them on a specific page and put them everywhere. And that's how I now work because I have to because Facebook can't handle it. But anyway,
Mm.
like I would never hem myself in like that because I totally, yeah, like to speak my mind and like to speak to people like you. Even so, an organization would see that and want to withdraw that certification because I'm suddenly like saying, well, yeah, I get it where you come from with e-collar training doesn't sound so bad. And it's like, whoa, that is not what we can
Right.
do. We can't have that. But say in
Yeah, and that's
university,
wrong. That's so wrong. To limit yourself that way. You know what I mean? Like you should never dismiss any tool in the toolbox because at some point and sometime under some situation it might be appropriate. So even if you
or
don't use it all the time, you should keep it in the back of your mind. You know what I mean?
or it might be appropriate for a client who has tried everything.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. It's anything that limits you. I'm not a big fan of. As a matter of fact, this what we're talking about is kind of how I came up with my name. I went to it was like the Association for Professional Dog Trainers, and I exchanged some emails with them, and I had some questions about getting certified, and the guy told me, he was like, the certification is not really worth much of anything. And you seem like you're already kind of beyond the point where you would learn anything from the certification. He said, we're glad to have you, but if you're expecting to learn something here, it's probably not for you. I said, okay, thank you. At least he's honest. So I
Yeah.
got to thinking about it, and this was at the time where everybody was certified. So that's why my name is Bonafide. I'm not certified, I'm
Oh,
bona fide. And I just spelled it different.
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Wow, I like that. Well, I used to think, well, I'd still be maybe in the future interested in doing a bit what Zach has done, just go to university and get a degree in animal behavior or something like that, because the university won't have you in. I even ascertained that with Professor Daniel Mills once, saying, hey, this guy who studied with you got a certification, is still using slip leads. What's what here? And he says, yeah, as long as he's not member of a certifying body, we are university, we don't restrict people in what they can do, right? So that would sit well with me, I guess. Maybe at some point in the future, but I'm also thinking, hey, I've been pretty instrumental in, and I'm trying to say that without sounding cocky or overconfident here, but in creating, helping create, outline even, and create and produce and sell three even dog training certification courses over the years. So if I can write this theory part of two different certification courses in full, the other one was just kind of like partial. It was the project was, I don't think the other trainer completed that ever, uh, but if I can do that, then maybe it doesn't make so much sense to get a certification and to rehearse all of that I'd already researched and spit out in the first place. I mean, the knowledge is already there, you know, and
Right.
a lot of us don't have balance trainers, don't have certifications. I mean, Ivan's certification is maybe the most commonly known one, maybe in the balanced world. But other than that, you can go to Garrett, you can go to Will, and you get a, oh yeah, certified in this. Yeah, okay, but once you've done all the courses, you're pretty much there anyway, I would say. So what's the difference? Why don't you just like why don't people just have the confidence to get out there, get some hands on some dogs, get some testimonials, and hey, this is me. Obviously, it's working what I'm doing. So, you know,
It's another example of people trying to fall into one of those camps, you know?
yeah,
The training without conflict, or I'm Napopo, like, right? So that's how, I don't know how to explain this, but if you look into any faction of pretty much anything, you'll have different little subsets of groups within that group.
oh
And
yeah,
I don't know. It's the same mindset of just trying to find a group to fit in with. And then once they get in that group and everybody thinks like them, I guess there's no one to challenge their way anymore. And that's what draws them to it. I'm not really sure.
yeah. But say even in Garrett's case, and I'm not criticizing him in any way. I get it, but he was getting a certification program ready at that point, and we're working on that, and we're bringing people in to, or maybe to be considered as certified trainers. And one of my team members, um, a very promising young trainer, very gifted young trainer, he would do team meetings with us whilst being in Lowe's or Home Depots, walking a client dog off leash healing, attention healing, and just filming that dog and listening to us. That's who he was, and still probably is. And he started training out of his garage next to working full time. Client testimonials came rolling in. And I kept saying, well, Garrett, I mean, that guy is ready. I mean, you have to certify him. I mean, come on. Not just because he's my guy, like as a team leader, I felt, I wanted guys to succeed, obviously, but also because he's really good. And Gary was, oh yeah, I have to check where the dogs are kept. I have to really make sure. And I was thinking, this guy wouldn't even need you at this point. He didn't don't need the DOI canine stamp. He's so good. He's built such a track record by himself already. that he could go out there and already run the business, that he already had registered and was running in the first place. So that's why it doesn't make sense. Because once you're certified with one of these trainers, you have to dance by their tune. If you deviate, you're out pretty much. Like Dylan
Right. And
Jones.
see, I don't have any respect for anything that once you've achieved your credit, you are certified. You cannot take that from me because I have proven that I understand your program. Because that's all these certifications are, right? Training without conflict, it's not certifying you as a dog trainer, it's just certifying you in that specific method. Nipopo with Bart Balone, it is just certifying you in that particular method. Now you could go out and you could combine those two methods together with some force-free stuff from Victoria Stillwell, and you're not using any of their methods anymore. Now you're using your own method. But
Oh,
are you
that's
not
tricky. That's
certified
tricky.
anymore?
Yeah, but see, that's not how they see it. Like the last person I co-produced a course with, I was saying, well, okay, so if you certify people in your way, surely they just, I said what you said, they get a certification and then that's it. Because I was thinking, well, as I'm co-creating the course, shouldn't I be certified too, right? He was like, oh my God, no, I'd have to review closely what they're doing. And if they're not holistic enough in my approach in that case, no, I can't keep them certified. So he would have withdrawn the certification. At least that's how I understood his reasoning. And that doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to me because you can't evolve then. You can't ever do your own thing if you don't want to lose your certification. Same with Victoria Stilwell Academy. If I suddenly started using a slip lead and went on camera, hello, yeah, I'm correcting the dog on a slip lead, I would lose the certification. And like you said, it doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many flaws in the dog world. Everybody wants to know how to fix them, but there's so many flaws. Where do you even start?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean,
Yeah,
I used to be all about sexual, what was going on, these standardized trainer certifications. But more recently, I'm starting to think, well, somehow I'm getting to talk to all these amazing people, yourself included. You're a really nice person to talk to, who were I supposed to see as enemies. And I realized, well, no, that's actually totally stupid. So why would I be so hell bent on saying dog training needs to be standardized everywhere in the world? And if someone doesn't play that tune, they're out. They can't even say anything about pit bulls killing people for just one topic, because that's like not, it's seen as doggy racism. You can't say that. But the game dog people know that it's actually accurate, that the drive of a pit bull is just very much more lethal than the drive of a pug, you know. And it's just so stupid to
yeah.
me that this is like that I've been so naive in a way. Just yeah, just I guess everything is evolution.
Yeah, yeah, you know what? You're right about that. It's evolution. Our society and the um I don't know how to explain it. I guess the way people in society have been protected from the consequences of their actions. I really wanted to say the consequences of stupidity, but I was trying to be nice. Like we had to put warning labels on the gas pump that said "Don't drink this." Right, and that means that somebody needed to be told not to drink the gasoline. But now that we have those signs, those people are reproducing, and those people are having children with other people who are also, they need directions on the back of a shampoo bottle. And these are the parents, these are the genetic pool we have to deal with. But yeah, it's we're on a downward spiral, our shelters are getting more and more full every year. The rescues are bursting at the seams. I don't know of any rescues that'll take a single dog right now.
Oh, me
Our
neither.
euthanasia rate's higher than ever before. Our fatal attacks are higher than ever before. Nothing that we've been doing so far has worked.
time to adopt the European model, maybe get some BSL in, like you said, just for the breeds that can do damage. And I would totally even include even the German Shepherd in that. Sorry as I am to say, but there is still a lot of stuff that a lot of people that shouldn't have such a dog with that potential, in my opinion. I mean, not say you can't have the dog, but say you at least need to do some
We need a
education.
criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see, the thing is over here, we already tried BSL and it doesn't work. All it does is the same people that now they can't own a pit bull, so they'll buy a Cane Corso. All right, but they
Yeah,
can't have the Cane Corso, I'll buy a Persian Canario. Oh, I can't have that either, I'll get a Bulldog. Well, what about a boxer? But they're still doing the same neglectful things that they were doing before, so the same things are happening. So everybody's overturning breed-specific legislation, and I think that if you were to try to present that to the courts, they're gonna use cases that are already on the books that had overturned it before and say, well, there's no need to hear this case again. But if we were to go at it from a different angle to where it doesn't seem discriminatory, even though everybody with common sense knows that, like I said, I don't really think you should have to get a license to own a pug. But just to be fair, so nobody can complain about it. If you want to own a dog, you got to take this course.
Yeah.
You know, teach them how to
I
wash their water bowls, about the flea treatments, spay and neutering, you know, your basics on behavior. I think just teaching people that genetics matter so much would probably help a lot. You know, just a little open book test, anything that would
Yeah.
promote
Yeah.
education before you could just go out and buy a dog. I think
I'd be
50% of
all
pet
for it.
owners would just give up. Like they wouldn't even put that much effort into it. They'd go get a goldfish.
Yeah. Or just like they have in Portugal and Spain, and it's different in Spain depending on the regions. But they have this thing where they have a whole batch of breeds that are restricted. None is banned, but restricted are all bully breeds, Corsos, Rottweilers. In Spain, also Tibetan Mastiffs and Dobermans in one of the provinces, for example. So that can be a bit of variance. But there's a whole list of dogs that habitually are causing these terrible incidents that are outlawed, not just the pit bull. Like the UK totally messed this up, like just ban these 4 fighting breeds, okay, and then the XL bullies murder all those people, and then
Yep.
they ban those but leave the American bulldogs and the pocket bullies intact. And still stuff continues to happen. So at least Spain and Portugal just did a blanket restriction on a whole band of potentially dangerous breeds. I think that makes a lot more sense. At least that's one option, and I think maybe in the ideal world both would come together, like every dog owner needing to do the education, at least the theoretical passing a test, and then you'd have the potentially dangerous breeds, say just take the Portugal list. That's a good start. As far as I'm concerned, it works here apparently, as the police tell me. There's no fatalities caused by dogs in the last decades, and
Wow,
it
really?
seems, yeah, it's literally I can't find a list of dog bite related fatalities in Portugal in the last like 10 years. Um, and the police said too, yeah, the last one they're aware of is a case 5 years ago in a specific town we lived close to, where a pit bull bit a child in the hand because it got loose in the lobby. And that's it. That's the extent of it. Well, in the US, it's fatality, near fatality, permanent disfiguration, mauling, someone loses limbs, the dogs get
Every
gutted
day.
in front of the owners.
Every day.
Every day, yeah. It's really bad over there. And I think
Yeah,
that
I've got
I
a
just
lady.
the European
I'm
model
sorry, I
could
didn't mean to
help.
cut you off.
Sorry, what?
I'm sorry, we've got a lag going on here. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no problem.
We've got a lady that's going to come on next week for a little interview that was doing rescue work, and she got attacked by a pit bull mix, and her story is horrific.
Oh,
And she was into rescue and all that stuff back then, but I think that since then she said that, you know, she still keeps some dogs herself, but she can't do the rescue thing anymore. and
Yeah.
it's really getting more and more and more popular to meet people that have been seriously hurt by dogs. And getting bit's one thing, but getting mauled and left incapacitated by a
Damn.
domestic pet, this yeah, it's I don't think the government's gonna let it go, but so far, and our fatality rate doubling in the course of 2 years, that's unacceptable.
It's horrible. Yeah. Yeah. And then people scold us in the groups. You guys are abusers. Yeah, and what about all these people that are suffering daily pain because they've been mauled, right? Had their
Yep.
dogs gutted in front of them, and whoever gets over that, really. You just got a tiny dog, it doesn't hurt anyone, doesn't bother anyone, and neighbor's pit bull jumps the fence and just takes that dog away from you in the worst possible way. Or could be your Paladines, they're also not very big. Some XL bully decides that looks tasty, let's hunt it. Great.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
shocking how people have to live over there. I really sympathize. I couldn't imagine.
And people are letting them run loose. Like we have leash laws in town and stuff like that, but a vast majority of our fatalities or serious attacks are dogs running loose or the dog got out of the house, dog got out of the yard, something like that.
Yeah.
I think I got a snake in my yard. My dogs keep randomly going off.
Oh, wow. Oh, if you need to attend to it, by all means. I don't want to endanger any doggies.
It's okay. They stop for the time being, so we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, I am running out of battery here, so
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't
no
really notice.
problem.
We've been on for 2 hours.
Yeah, oh my God.
Yeah,
Fly.
I guess if you're good, maybe we'll do a part two sometime at a later
Yeah,
date. It was awesome chatting with you today,
same.
and yeah, I'm sure we'll be seeing each other on Facebook.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
All
It was
right.
much.
I'm really sorry to cut it short. I didn't realize my phone was going down like that. Was there
No,
anything that I cut you off from that you wanted to say before we go?
no, just that I really appreciate it. And I think you're a really cool guy, very nice to talk to. And again, I apologize that I've been rude before I called you a troll.
It's no problem at all. We all have fun on social media. It's totally cool. Yeah, and thanks a lot for being open minded enough to even talk to me in the first place, much less come on live and sit here for 2.5 hours and shoot the shit with me. Um, yeah, time flies when you're having fun. So yeah, maybe we can do this again next time,
Yeah,
or maybe we can do this again sometime.
yeah, yeah.
All right,
Look
well, it
forward
sounds
to it.
good. Thank you, Alexandra. I hope you have a great day, and
Yeah,
we'll talk to you again soon.
sure. See you around.
See you later.
Bye.